I'm zombie David Scandara Brains.
I'm regular Justice Burkett.
And today we're gonna find out if 28 weeks later is the greatest movie ever made. Brain.
What if it comes back?
It won't come back.
What if it does?
If it comes back, we kill it.
I really sold you down the river on that one. You were like, yes, and me. And I was like, no, I am knowing you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Welcome back to another week of quality. Quality? We'll see. Film criticism.
No, quality, a word that famously is used to describe this show. Everybody talks about how high quality this show is, how tight and well produced.
That's why we have so many listeners.
Yeah.
And sponsorships.
You know what?
We've quit our jobs and can make money on this because, like, we're just the hottest pod in town.
You know what? At least we can truly say is high quality about this show: the research, which is a thing that neither of us do. But yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to the greatest movie ever made, the show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made.
See, that was my attempt at a zombie noise.
Yeah.
Specifically a rage zombie noise.
Yeah.
Because the Arc Brains variety of zombies, not so much. The 28 franchises version of a zombie.
No.
28 blank slaters.
These are the ones that go...
Yeah.
Movie that is so thoroughly entertaining and compelling that while you're watching it, it's the only thing that matters in post-apocalyptic London.
Yeah.
David Scandara, joined as always by my co-host, Justice Burkett.
That's me. Yes, hello. We are once again here to talk about a horror movie. What's the last horror movie we did? I feel like it's been a while since we had a horror, and a while for us is like more than 5 episodes.
Yeah, like maybe a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun to get into. Is this our first zombie movie? Well, Evil Dead 2, but Deadites aren't zombies.
Right.
I would argue that Deadites are not zombies.
I think you could probably make an argument that the Evil Dead movies are zombie movies.
Right.
They're probably on like top 50, top 20 zombie movie lists on the internet, which is probably how I came across. I think that's how and why I watched them.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on our Evil Dead 2 episode.
Yeah.
Is that you were making your way through zombie movies and that's how you found Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't get mad at anyone who called Evil Dead zombie movies. Like, I wouldn't be like, you're wrong. But I personally do not think of them that way. I think of them as more demon possession movies than zombie movies.
Yeah.
I feel like they have more in common with the tropes of demon possession than the tropes of zombie movies.
Apparently, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland also do not think of the 28 Days franchise as zombie movies.
Well, that's horseshit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, know thyself, motherfucker. You have made zombie movies, my friends. Yeah, there's a different type of zombie in these movies, sure, but I think still squarely a zombie movie.
Oh, sure,
franchise. Yeah.
And they definitely were referencing and taking influence from classic zombie movies when they made that first one.
Right.
But we're not talking about that one. We're talking about its, I would say, underrated and sort of forgotten sequel.
Yes.
28 weeks later, directed by Juan Fresnadillo.
Yes. Days have turned to weeks, but we never get to see what months looks like. We're, of course, doing this because 28 years later is coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. I would agree. Sort of the black sheep of this so far 2 installment franchise, right? Everybody, there's lots of love for 28 Days Later. 28 weeks later, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that one's there, you know?
Yeah. And I can sort of see why, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Before we get to it, let's just do our check-ins.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, this is gonna be the theme all summer. We've already alluded to it on previous episodes, but very busy, but good. Overall, I think I'm feeling good. Today at the end of a very, very busy week. It hasn't started grinding me down to the point where I'm like, I regret all of my life decisions that have brought me to this point yet. So that's a good sign.
It's good.
Yeah. And I don't know if I have any media to recommend. I kind of think I don't, because I've been very busy and I haven't really been like listening to anything new or watching. The only movie I've watched recently was this movie for this episode. But so yeah, David, how are you doing?
In the words of Lou Reed, I am tired. I am
Yeah.
weary. I could sleep for 1,000 years.
That's right.
Maybe I've quoted that before, but every time I get this tired, I always think of that line from Venus and Furs. Anyway, yeah, fucking busy as shit, and there's not enough time to sleep, and I need to sleep.
Yeah. Sleep is very important.
But this week should hopefully be less busy.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I think it'll start calming down a little bit.
It will help that we don't have to do an hour and a half drive each way 5 nights next week.
Yep.
That will definitely help.
That helps with sleep schedule and eating on time and all that stuff. So yeah. I don't have anything to recommend. Just like get a full 8 hours of sleep.
Since neither of us have any recommendations this week, ET has carte blanche to post their media recommendations for this week on our socials. So if you see something that's a media recommendation coinciding with this episode, it's something that ET wants you to listen to or watch. Anyway.
Yeah.
28 weeks later. So we could talk a little bit about our history with the 2 films in this franchise. David, what's your history with 28 weeks later, and I guess also by extension, it's the first installment in this franchise as well.
Mm-hmm. So I had a zombie phase in high school.
Right.
The storied and legendary David Scandura high school zombie phase.
Yeah.
I did not see either of these films in theaters. And for a while, I liked Weeks more than Days, I think.
Okay. Hot take.
But of sort of like the 28 Days was pretty essential in reviving the zombie movie in the 2000s and the early 2010s. I think probably the 3 movies that did it were 28 Days Later, Shaun of the Dead, and the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because the Shaun of the Dead thing was sort of like, all right, we're going to do zombie comedies,
Yes.
which of course led to stuff like Zombieland
Right.
and, Warm Bodies, which of course is kind of riffing on like Twilight too. But 28 Days and Dawn, Zack Snyder's Dawn, sort of introduced the idea of fast zombies that it's caused by a viral outbreak as opposed to something
That's
supernatural
like magic.
or science fiction or
Right.
not really ever explained. And I was really riding the zombie wave for a while. I was
Yes.
riding the corpsey bloody wave.
Yeah.
And I rewatched the original 28 Days, and I still love that movie. I still think it is like very haunting and atmospheric, and I found myself extremely depressed while watching it.
Yeah. It's a downer.
Yeah.
It is pretty pessimistic about humanity, that first movie.
Yeah, and there's these little sparks of optimism or levity in that movie that you probably wouldn't expect, like the scene where they go to a grocery store and just like have a little shopping spree.
Yes. Yes. I love that sequence.
Yeah.
And the happy ending.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with those, I was watching it this week. I was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
28 Days is really interesting. I think it's a very good movie that is a little clunky in spots, and personally doesn't quite work as well for me as it maybe does for other people.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of respect for it and the craft of the filmmaking and what they were able to achieve with it. 28 Weeks is in a lot of ways the prototypical bigger and better sequel.
Right.
However,
Right.
we'll elaborate on that. But
Yes.
but Weeks is one that I've never remembered as well. I actually watched Weeks within the last couple of years,
Uh-huh.
and there was still stuff that I forgot happened in this movie.
Yeah.
But I have thoughts. That's why we have a podcast.
That's right.
What-
So that we can share our thoughts.
Yeah. But these are both these two movies. This franchise is one of the better zombie franchises of that new recent zombie wave post the 2000s.
Right.
I don't think that either of them have ever been among my favorite zombie movies.
Okay.
I think I'm still pretty beholden to the original Romero trilogy.
Right.
But they're kind of interesting successors or spiritual successors to the Romero films, I think.
Yeah.
In the satire and the social commentary that they're dealing with. So yeah, what's your relationship to these films?
So I did not see 28 Days or Weeks Later until I started dating High Priestess Pod, and she had seen both of these movies already, and I got into both of these through her because these were movies that she was like, "Oh, you haven't seen that? We should watch that." But I was aware of 28 Days Later way before I saw it. I remember I grew up doing theater, and I specifically remember being at a cast party when I was like a kid. I was like the child actor of this company full of adults, right? And so like at the cast party, me and my brother were just like the resident kids hanging out, sipping our juice boxes while everybody else was getting like hammered or whatever. And I remember hearing a conversation of some of these adults in this theater company talking about 28 Days Later shortly after it had come out in like 2002, right? And talking about how the scene in the church terrified them so much, right? And that conversation like stuck with me for years. I just remember hearing the scene described at a party between grown-ups when I was like, I don't know, 2002, I would have been, like 9, you know? And I just remember carrying that memory through my adolescence and being like, there is something about that 28 Days Later movie that I always have been curious about because I heard the scene described at this cast party. And so when High Priestess Pod and I started dating, I was really excited to go into it because I was like, oh, it's that fucking movie with the scene in the church that I know about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it, instantly loved it. Instantly one of my favorite zombie movies. And I hadn't seen any Romero movies other than Night of the Living Dead at that point. But I will say the first one, 28 Days Later, still probably is in my top 5 zombie movies that I have seen. The Romero trilogy is also in that top 5, but I would say 28 Days Later is like in there. It's still one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, it's probably in my top 10 if I had to list them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie. And I love 28 Days Later to this day. I own it on Blu-ray, which is very funny to own that movie on Blu-ray because it was shot in 480p. So it's like, how much is this Blu-ray transfer really doing here? Wow, I can really see the digital noise very clearly on this crisp Blu-ray, this crisp 4K. It's very funny. But 28 Weeks Later, I watched around the same time. I think High Priestess Pod and I watched both the first and second close to each other. She had seen both, and it was my first time with both. I also loved 28 Weeks Later pretty much right away, but more or less immediately kind of thought, oh, okay, it's like not as good as the first one. It'll be interesting to see how I feel about it this time around, and we'll get into that with the conversation. But like, I remember being like, oh yeah, it's a good sequel, but it's like not. It doesn't quite measure up to the first.
I think my take on it was sort of the same as my take on Jurassic Park versus The Lost World.
Right.
Around that time, which was I liked the sequels better because they were more action packed.
Yeah.
And the previous films were a little bit slower and built up to their scares a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas like, the last 45 minutes of 28 Weeks Later are just like pedal to the floor.
Yes, it goes sicko mode. It's true. Yeah. You were mentioning your high school zombie phase. I do want to mention, because this is our first like proper zombie movie that we're covering. If you're not counting Evil Dead 2, right? I do want to mention that while I was in middle school, I did create a public Facebook group called the Zombie Apocalypse Awareness Party that actually had several thousand members, and I, as like a 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old, was the admin of this page. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It was a fake political party whose only platform was preparing for the zombie apocalypse. And it, I was doing it as a bit. I still look back on that and like cringe, but in kind of a fond way.
Yeah,
I was doing Facebook posts like, oh, how to like zombie proof your home, and I would like give them a bunch of like bullet point tips or whatever, and some people liked it and followed the page, and it's just always a thing I think back on, and I'm like, that's very silly that was like a thing that I did at one point,
In high school, my sophomore year English class had a project on public speaking, and it was like prepare a 10 or 15 minute presentation about how, like, teaching someone how to do something. And so some people made like PowerPoints and such, and like it was like the horse girl did like how to take care of your horses, or how to fix how to change a tire or something, and I was like, how to prepare for the zombie apocalypse. So I made a homemade Shaun costume from Shaun of the Dead.
You've got red on you.
My dad found a cricket bat at like a fucking yard sale, and spray painted some red blood on it. I cited like the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks, and like research stuff on late 2000s internet, which was a much different place, and also trying to get through like school firewalls to figure out how to like cite different like survival tactics or zombie survival tactics and stuff, and I almost got a perfect score on it.
Nice. A very well researched how to survive a zombie apocalypse presentation.
Yes. If I remember correctly, the note I got back from the teacher was like, the only thing is you didn't cite any sources during your actual presentation. Also, I didn't do it with a PowerPoint. I just I think I had note cards and just practiced.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
The old fashioned way.
Yeah.
Just standing up there and raw dogging a presentation
with
no visual aid other than your costume.
Yeah,
that
was
rocks.
pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, like, zombie culture kind of peaked when we were in, like, middle school, early high school.
Yeah.
Like, it was like...
And I was thinking back, and I don't know what movie set it off for me. Because, again, like, I didn't see the 28 Days movies in theaters. It may have been Zombieland, but I think even before... Because I remember meeting outside our local Bookman's for a zombie walk to the old theater that's no longer there.
Yeah.
And I dressed up as a zombie. I think I probably wore the bloody shirt that I made for the Shaun of the Dead costume.
Yeah.
But again, like I think I knew about. I'd probably seen the Romero movies at that point, or at least Night and Day, or Night and Dawn. I mean. So I don't know exactly what did it, or I just decided one day I was like, I'm gonna watch zombie movies.
Yeah.
And for a while it was like I want to watch every zombie movie, which was an impossible task. But
yes,
every movie that I could research and find information on.
The hubris of a high school boy to be like, I'm gonna watch every single zombie movie, not realizing that there are 500 Korean zombie movies that you've never heard of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the squeaky toy is back. Avid listeners will be familiar with my dog Squeaky Toy that sometimes makes an appearance on mic.
It's a different squeaky toy because she destroys them.
It's true, yeah. She goes for the face. We get her ones that like look like squirrels or whatever, and she'll just like go right in through the nose. Much kind of zombie behavior.
Speaking of
zombie-esque.
Speaking of biting creatures,
eating their fluffy brains out. These squeaky toys. Anyway, I was gonna say the thing that I think really got me into like full like rabid zombie fan mode was the release of Left 4 Dead, the video game.
Yo, that too. I played the fuck out of Left 4 Dead.
Me too. Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, Dead Island when that came out was big for me. So I think that also like video games also were like part of like the cultural monolith that zombies became
and
in like the late 2000s.
Yeah, and they sort of continued the zombie trend once films had stopped, putting out zombie movies. Once Hollywood stopped putting out zombie movies, like there were still a lot of zombie games because it's a really simple, easy premise. It's like
it makes a lot of sense.
Guarantees that it's going to be like a multiplayer success.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense just as a video game concept to be like, there's endless waves of zombies running at you.
Board games still use the zombie theme a lot.
Yeah.
And I was also really into the Walking Dead comics and TV show.
Me too. Not the comics, but the TV show.
Till about probably like season 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah. I was into it for a few seasons as well. I remember like when I first started college at Northern Arizona University and I didn't have any friends, what I would do to try and make friends in my dorm was open the door to my dorm room and sit and watch the Walking Dead out loud on my computer speakers without headphones, really loud. And just see if anyone in the hall was like, "Hey, what you doing?"
Oh, you could have just come to my dorm room. We were watching it
I didn't know you yet.
We were just watching. I know. We were just watching every week on as it came out in the lounge.
I was torrenting it because I wasn't gonna pay for cable.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably enough general zombie talk. We can get into this specific film. As you mentioned, this one is not directed by Danny Boyle. Danny Boyle directed the first one.
Yeah.
And it was written by Alex Garland.
And they're on board still as executive producers.
Yes. So the situation with this one was Danny Boyle was planning to direct this movie, but then he was busy directing Sunshine instead. And it seems like he sort of handpicked Juan Carlos Fresnadillo to direct this movie. It seems like it was one of those situations where like a director's passion project is handed off to another director who they trust that they've sort of like chosen for that task, So it does seem like this had like the blessing of Danny Boyle.
Yeah. And they were still involved as executive producers, but
right.
Story-wise, they kind of they explored a few different options. They were going to do 29 Days Later, which was like sort of picking up in the world of the end of the first movie.
Do you know what the original concept for 29 Days Later was? That E.T. put this in the research?
There was one that was
maybe not the original concept, but one of the concepts.
One of the ones was the start of the outbreak.
Yeah.
Like in between day 0 and 28 with a team of SAS operatives rescuing the prime minister.
Yeah, E.T.'s research says the Queen. Maybe they bandied both ideas.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of a zombie movie where it's the SAS rescuing the Queen from zombies.
Oh dear. Look at all these zombies.
Mom, we have to take you to the safe house. And she's like, oh dear.
But I sort of...
are we colonizing one of their countries? Why are all these people so angry?
Did we steal some of their spices?
Just give them their jewels back.
They could see them anytime they want to in the British Museum. I sort of get it, though, because I think 28 Days Later is such an interesting world because it's sort of implied that like most people have just died because of how fast this virus spreads and how violent the zombies are.
Yeah.
And that it also implies at the end that the zombies are dying of starvation, which isn't really a thing that has come up. It's not like sort of like accepted zombie lore, I guess. It's like an interesting thing about these zombies.
Right.
And
right. That they eventually just burn themselves out.
Yeah. And
it's like a short timeline zombie outbreak.
Yeah. And that the outside world has been unaffected because it burns itself out so quickly.
Yes. Like this only happened in Great Britain, which is a thing that I think is really interesting about this franchise so far. And the end of this movie kind of is like, well, it sort of undercuts this. But the thing that I think is interesting about these first two movies is that they are exclusively British. Like they are like, and they feel very specifically British, these first two movies, in ways that I feel like as an American viewer, I maybe even don't totally wrap my head around. It feels like there's stuff here where it's like, where we're commentating, especially in the first movie, on British culture in ways that maybe go a little bit over my head. But I still feel the specificity of it as a viewer and really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It is interesting as a zombie movie to be like, no, this isn't happening all over the world. It's just here.
And I think that world building sort of setup is what lends this franchise to so many different stories you could potentially tell.
Right.
Because they've done comic books expanding on this too. And of course now we're actually getting 3 28 years later movies, which is the weird thing.
It's an interesting choice to do 28 days later, 28 weeks later, skip months, and then do 3 28 years laters. Although I guess a year, to be fair, is longer than a day or a week. So maybe you can fit 3 movies into a year.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal with that is, but
Yeah.
it's like there is something different about this world, and I think that's what makes the setup for Weeks so interesting.
Yes.
Which we'll get to. Before we get to Weeks, we're in the thick of the zombie outbreak with Robert Carlyle and his wife and some survivors hiding out in a quaint little house in the English countryside.
There are 4 other survivors other than Robert Carlyle and his wife in this house. 2 of them are an older couple, and then there's this guy who's just kind of an asshole, and this woman who is like waiting for her boyfriend to come back, who left 5 days ago, and everybody else is kind of like, that dude's dead.
Yeah.
You know what this had me thinking? Being an old person in a zombie apocalypse must suck absolute ass.
Well, it's really going to suck for them in a few minutes.
But I was just thinking about it in general, and I was like, zombie apocalypse, kind of a young man's game. You don't want to be old in the zombie apocalypse. Like, even with slow zombies, I feel like being old in the zombie apocalypse, because it's like, if you're on any medications, it's going to be a pain in the ass getting those. You're not going to be able to nap. You know, you got to fucking walk around a bunch.
Yeah.
If we go from safe location to safe location. Zombie apocalypse, lots of manual labor involved. You got to barricade shit. You got to haul all your supplies. I just feel like if I was old in the zombie apocalypse, I would just be like, it's maybe time for me to just peace out early. You know what I'm saying? Like the parents do in 28 Days Later, where they just take a bunch of sleeping pills and drink a bunch of red wine and just die. Cillian Murphy's parents, right? I'm like, I feel like that is the move if you're old in the zombie apocalypse. Once you see a zombie apocalypse headed your way, if you could get a senior discount at Denny's, you just got to be like, nah, this is it for me, man. I can't do all this shit. This old couple kind of had me thinking that. And to be fair, they look like they kind of have their shit figured out temporarily.
Right.
But,
well, they're also doing the quiet place thing where they have to like be very, very quiet and cook very quietly.
Yeah. And like all the windows are completely covered, so it's like no natural light is getting in the house.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's the thing I wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, try really, really hard to be quiet, because that's sort of the weird thing about these movies is either Cillian Murphy can wander through the streets of London without encountering a single zombie until he shows up in this random church.
Right.
Or they're all over the place.
Right. They do seem to travel in packs in the 28 Days films. And packs so large that if there's a pack somewhere, that means that all the zombies have basically cleared out from the surrounding like mile radius. They all went to join the group.
But of course, welcome back to the show, Robert Carlyle.
Yes.
It's funny because
my boy,
this movie sort of sets him up as the main character, and in a way, he is.
Yes. I would argue that who else is the main character of this movie, right? Like, kinda. It's not Jeremy Renner.
It's sort of when we get to the setup in London, it does kind of feel like it's shaping up to be an ensemble.
Yes.
And sort of is, but it is like it's the story of the kids. It's the story of the family.
Right.
But you see Robert Carlyle, and I think even I knew him, and I'm trying to think if maybe it was because like he was the villain in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah.
I probably hadn't seen Trainspotting or Full Monty yet. Maybe I had actually seen Full Monty,
Yeah.
but I knew who he was. And I think the subversion they do with his character in this movie is really, really one of the best things about the movie.
One of the best things about the movie is Robert Carlyle's character journey in this movie. This is such a fucking interesting setup for a zombie movie. Like the whole family drama thing in this movie, because what happens in this opening, right, is that like a kid shows up at the house where all these survivors are hunkering down, and Robert Carlyle doesn't want to let the kid in. His wife talks him into it because their own two kids, Robert Carlyle and his wife, their kids are abroad studying or something.
Yeah, they're on a school trip.
Yeah.
Abroad.
And so they were not in Great Britain when the zombie outbreak happened. So they're safe. And like they're kind of talking about it at the beginning of the scene. And then when this kid shows up, it is very much like his wife kind of giving him the like, what if it was our kid thing? And it convinces him to like let the kid in. And so this kid shows up, and basically this kid has inadvertently, like unintentionally, led a whole horde of zombies onto this house, and the zombies break in and fucking kill everybody. Basically,
yeah, partially because the lady who thinks who is waiting for her boyfriend to come back.
Yes, has to fucking open a little crack in.
Go looking for him.
Yep, she's like, oh, maybe. Well, if this kid made it, maybe my boyfriend's out there. And instead, you know what's out there? A huge fucking zombie jump scare. Where it just pops up in the fucking window and is like, hello, motherfucker, I'm here to eat your face. Yeah. This whole opening sequence was directed by Danny Boyle.
Well, it certainly feels like it.
It
was.
Yeah.
It has more of this movie in general is shot with like the handheld camera stuff that you expect from 28 Days Later. But this one in particular, there's more of that 28 Days DNA in it. It also looks noticeably worse than the rest of the movie. It has more grain.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't quite look like the 28 Days Later potato
footage,
but like they're definitely trying to remind you of that.
Yes, and by David saying it looks worse, but in like kind of a good way. Like I like the bad quality thing, and that's not a hot take. Lots of people say this. I like the poor image quality of 28 Days Later, and I like it being replicated here as well. But yeah, so the zombies attack. This whole Danny Boyle directed sequence is like very frenetic. The action is like, if you've seen either of these movies, you know what we're talking about. The camera is like kind of getting jostled all over the place. You can't really get a good look at a lot of the action. It's sort of impressionistic, where it's like there will be like an extreme close up of a zombie's face with like blood spurting out of its mouth.
Yeah.
And then it'll like cut to like a reaction shot of one of the one of the survivors from the house, like screaming in agony or whatever. And it's like, your brain puts that together and is like, oh, they've been bit.
This seemed like a thing that British horror directors were doing at this time, because this is also very reminiscent of what Neil Marshall does in Dog Soldiers.
It is. It's yes.
And stuff like The Descent too, which of course had a little bit wider reach than Dog Soldiers did in terms of its release. But I think that style works for this opening. It worked in the original 28 Days. I don't think it works in the rest of the movie.
I sort of agree with that, yeah. We're pretty much on the same page, I think.
And I also think this opening scene, which ends with Robert Carlyle and the rest of the survivors get killed off.
Except for the one guy.
Yeah, they
the one guy who's kind of an asshole gets to the boat.
The dick survives. They escape to the barn, and like the old ones get fucking mowed down.
Yeah, you don't want to be old during the zombie apocalypse. This is what I'm telling you. That lady couldn't climb up a ladder,
Yeah.
And as a result, she's fucking zombie chow.
Yeah.
You want to be able to climb a flight of stairs easily in the zombie apocalypse. That's all I'm saying.
Life alert isn't going to help you out if you fall down.
Absolutely not.
But Robert Carlyle and his wife try to make it upstairs, and there's zombies blocking Robert Carlyle from his wife and the kid, and he just it's shot so well. It's such a good moment where she's pleading with him to help, and he just like looks at her, shuts the door, and leaves.
Yeah.
And then meets the guy with the boat.
Yeah.
The asshole guy with the boat.
Yes.
And he falls out of the boat and gets fucking chewed up by the zombies. And then Robert Carlyle just motorboats away going, and I remember this from like the first time I watched it, goes, shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit,
Yeah.
oh shit.
It's great.
So this whole sequence is the best scene in the movie.
I completely agree. This opening, I wrote down in my notes, one of the great cold opens of any movie ever. And I think it is one of the best cold opens of a movie.
I think so too.
It's
I think
so
it
good.
has to be.
And it also like works as a self-contained horror short film.
Yeah.
You know, like if you only watched this cold open on its own, it kind of tells a whole story, you know? And I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Robert Carlyle, his just facial performance and like physical performance in this whole sequence is great and very arresting. Catherine McCormick, who plays Alice, the wife of Robert Carlyle's character, Dawn, right? Catherine McCormick in this scene is so good when she's screaming at him and when she goes to the window
yeah.
and is screaming his name. It is like, first of all, it's shot very well. Like I love that shot of her in the window screaming for his name. And her performance is so good in that moment, and it's so good that when she gets snatched out of the window, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, that's all that this actress is going to be in of this movie? That makes no sense. She's fantastic. And then, lo and behold,
Yeah.
she comes back, right? But yeah, it's really great shit. It's the best shit in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so good that I think it is so memorable that even though I just watched this movie a couple years ago, I kind of forgot some of the ways that the characters come back and how this tied into the larger story.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that the rest of the movie is bad or even less good. Even like I think this movie is overall pretty good, pretty well made film. But I think that the emotional gut punch of this opening is so powerful and memorable, and like Robert Carlyle as a protagonist is so, or you know, a supposed protagonist at this point, I guess.
Right, sort of an anti-hero of this movie. Yeah.
He's what works is like he's so different than the main characters of 28 Days Later, where like Cillian Murphy's, you know, sort of a blank slate for the audience, and by the end maybe becomes like, you know, he descends into like violence and madness a little bit, but only to save the other characters.
Right, only to help the innocent.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
he's like he ends up being like the hero of the movie in
Right.
a very traditional sense.
Right. Naomi Harris is a bit more of the hard nosed, you know, if you're dead weight, I'll leave you behind sort of zombie apocalypse character, who has to like lighten up over the course of the movie. Brendan Gleeson's just like pure unadulterated good.
Yes. Whereas Robert Carlyle in this movie is a shitheel fucking coward. And that is so interesting to center your movie on this guy. And also, he's a shitheel fucking coward, but also, you get it.
You relate to him and you understand why.
Right.
Like, if you were in that situation, how difficult that decision would be to make.
Right. Now, I will say I was watching this movie with High Priestess
Yeah,
Pod
could never be you.
last night, and I was like, absolutely not.
No, you'd be zombie chow before you'd let your wife get hurt.
I would die punching out those zombies. And then it would be a tragic irony because then, you know, if the events of this movie were replicated, High Priestess Pod would learn that she's in fact immune to the zombie virus. And it would be like, well, he died for nothing, kind of. Because I was actually going to be fine. Not fine, to be clear. Not fine. Alice lives. She's not fine. But yeah. And then it's like we cut from this like opening vignette, right, to the sort of montage of like, 28 days later, this is what happened. So it's like 28 days later, the rage virus has is released in Britain. 5 weeks after that, all life on Great Britain is wiped out, basically.
Right.
And then yada yada yada. The NATO peacekeeping force led by the United States has like taken martial control of Great Britain and is resettling it because all the zombies have died out of starvation, right? And that's where we pick back up where we re-enter the movie. And it's so interesting to me. It's kind of like a point that I feel like you don't really see in any other zombie movie, which is like the zombie apocalypse is over. It ended, right? And now it's like, and it didn't destroy the whole world. It was just confined to one place. And it's like, now we're rebuilding. We're resettling, right? It is sort of a very interesting place for you to pick back up in this story.
Yeah, I think a lot of zombie movies do the like the start of the outbreak thing, or like in the case of the Walking Dead show, it's the start of the outbreak, and then we just like progress through it. Actually, the Walking Dead does the 28 days
right
later
they
thing where Rick wakes up from a coma.
Yes 28 days later has lawsuit material on The Walking Dead for how that show starts, because it's exactly the fucking same.
But then there's other stuff like The Last of Us, which kind of has its cake and eats it too, by doing the start of the outbreak and then like 20 years later where like there's
now
no
it's
hope
society
for
again.
humanity, and we're just like, now we're fully leaning into the men are the real man is the real monster, sort of stuff.
Yes, but and like the full on like whole towns and nations have sprung up and shit. Yeah.
But this, I think, is really interesting because the outbreak is so short-lived, intense, and extremely violent, and now society has a chance to recover and rebuild and sort of reckon with things, but also not, because it's like we lived through this traumatic, awful, terrible event, and now we're just acting like everything's normal again.
Yes.
Sort of sounds like the COVID-19 pandemic or
war
or 9/11.
Yes.
The events of September 11th, 2001?
Yes.
I think they had an influence on this movie.
I think that the events of September 11th, 2001 had an influence on this movie and 28 Days Later, which was a couple weeks into filming when it happened.
Yes.
I also think the subsequent events of the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan by the Bush administration also had a big impact on this movie, David.
Yes, Justice. I think this is maybe
a movie about the Iraq War.
Maybe other than like Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
The definitive post 9/11 science fiction movie.
Yeah. It was really hitting me this time when I was watching it, especially when this movie sort of changes focus from Robert Carlyle to the other stuff.
Yeah. I
was like, oh, this is a movie about, in my Letterboxd review I said about the Afghanistan war. I actually think it's more about the Iraq war, right? Because it feels very much like it's just like textually just a straight up one-to-one metaphor in a lot of ways, where it's like, war tears this place apart, right? And right in this movie, zombie outbreak is substituting for war, right? And then it's like the United States is coming in and setting up like a military government that is supposed to transition these people to their eventual actual government, which will be a replication of what they had in the past where they were governing themselves. And like, it's not going very well. And it's like, there's a lot of areas where the militarization of this place is actually like setting it back. And it's just like, and like the U.S. military being there actually is fucking things up further and creating more violence, it just felt very pointed to me.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were talking the other day about how like you really fuck with 90s horror and 2000s horror
Yeah.
in action, and I'm like not as into horror and action during that time period.
Yeah.
You know what the genres that I think are really like really good in the 2000s are science fiction, war films, and political thrillers.
Right.
And 28 Weeks Later, of course, is a horror film, but because of the outbreak aspect and like the
It is also a
post-apocalyptic
sci-fi
aspect,
film.
it's also a sci-fi film.
Yeah.
And the reason those movies are really good in that time period is because of 9/11
Right.
and the War on Terror.
Right. Yes.
And
this is a huge war on terror movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is what makes this movie special to me, and why I think it's underrated. And there's a lot of stuff here in the opening, the opening of this part of the film, setting up the different characters. We have Jeremy Renner, who's a rooftop sniper.
Yes.
Rose Byrne is a doctor.
Rose Byrne is so good in this movie.
I
I kind of think Rose Byrne is great in this movie.
don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that I've seen her in much else that I was really like that I could be like, yeah, Rose Byrne was great in this. I
really like her in this movie.
I don't know. I really like Jeremy Renner in this movie. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. I like him in this too.
We also got Idris Elba as General Control Room.
And Idris Elba, a British man playing American in a British movie, which
It's
is
very funny.
very silly.
Very, very funny.
Where he's coming in and he's like, yes, I am an American military general. Yeah. He is General Control Room. I'm pretty sure that he showed up to set one day and filmed all of his scenes.
Yeah.
One day.
I was watching the end of this and I was like, I don't even remember what happens to him. Like I don't think he doesn't die. I think he's just still in that control room.
He's just hanging out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So we get introduced, to all these American military guys. The first thing that we really see that basically we cut from Robert Carlyle piloting the boat going, oh shit, after abandoning his wife to die. And then it's like cut to Jeremy Renner on a rooftop making jokes with his fellow soldiers about watching a fat guy jacking off. I like that that's how you're introduced to the American troops in this movie, where it's like they're so bored and like they have nothing to do in this like island where everyone has died, right? And they're just there like in case there's a lingering starving zombie wandering around. So they're so bored that they're like looking through everybody's windows and being like, oh, there's that fat guy honking his putt again.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing with this,
Let's watch this for a little bit.
The stuff
There's no
with the-
TV out here, so this is all that we have to watch.
the stuff with the snipers is so haunting to me because it is like a commentary on like the global surveillance state post 9/11, but it's also sort of like I don't know if you've seen the movie Jarhead, but it's about the Gulf War, I believe, and the sort of the premise of Jarhead and kind of the premise of this whole rooftop sniper subplot is like, what happens when you train young American men to kill people, give them guns, ship them across the world, and tell them they can't kill anyone until they're ordered to?
Yes.
They get bored,
Yes.
and all of that violent rage kind of boils up inside them until it explodes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's some of that in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
And so what they're resorted to is like, looking into people's windows through their guns.
Yes,
with their guns.
A filmmaking decision I really like in this movie is how much of the movie you see through a scope with crosshairs, where it's like you are watching somebody else watch another character, like you're watching Jeremy Renner watch another character in this movie through crosshairs, where it's like if he pulled the trigger, that person would be dead. And it's like that's just how he's looking at them. That's how he sees the world, right? Which I think is kind of your point.
Mm-hmm.
I love when he's watching the couple like having sex in bed through the window in this sequence, and it's with the crosshairs on them, and it's just like so chilling. Yeah.
Yeah. And it, I mean, tying into like the metaphor for the war on terror, it's like the people that you came here to protect are also sort of your enemy because the landscape of war has changed, and what an enemy combatant is, it's not a German guy in a uniform anymore. It can be anyone.
Right. Or at least that's what Command is telling you.
Right. And that's what that paranoia does to a person.
There's also a couple of shots where it's like the thermal camera on an airplane in this movie, and I really like that stuff in that way too. It might even be like a drone thermal camera. There's or not thermal, but you know what I'm talking about, like the drone camera thing.
Yeah.
They use a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Robert Carlyle's kids come back from their school trip, and that there are window into what quarantined London looks like.
Right.
Welcome back to the show, Imogen Poots and her silly name.
We bear no ill will toward Imogen Poots. We just like to point out that it is funny that her name is Imogen Poots.
She's quite good in this movie.
She's good. I like Imogen Poots in this movie.
She's young. She had done a few things up to this point.
This is her breakout role, though. This is really like the movie that kickstarted her career.
Yeah, started Poots Fever.
Yep. Poots Fever has gripped the nation. Yes, Imogen Poots' last scene, of course, in Centurion. A movie that I would wager to guess too few of you have still seen. Speaking of Neil Marshall. Yes, Imogen Poots is the older child, Robert Carlyle and Catherine McCormick's daughter, right? And then they have a son as well. The actor who plays the son didn't do anything else basically.
Right.
But their names are Andy and Tammy. The kids. So Andy and Tammy show up.
Oh, and the Andy, the actor who played Andy, his name is Mackintosh Muggleton, which is just like you typed into a internet generator British
name,
British kid name.
Mackintosh Muggleton. Holy shit! What a name! Wow. J.K. Rowling is quaking in her boots, knowing that there's a guy out there named Mackintosh Muggleton.
And also knowing that trans people exist.
Well, yeah, fuck off, J.K. Rowling.
Fuck off, J.K.
You horrible turf.
Jeez. Find something better to do with your time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yes, the kids show up, Tammy and Andy show up. And I really like the establishing shot in the scene where they go to the apartment where Robert Carlyle is living now. He brings his kids to their new home, right? The establishing shot when he goes to tell them what happened to their mom, because they ask, they're like, "Can you tell us what happened to mom?"
That overhead shot?
The overhead shot, so good.
Yeah.
Some of this movie looks really gorgeous. And I love that shot. It was really arresting last night when I watched it. I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot there were visuals like this in this movie. And then he tells them a white lie, kind of. He tells them the truth until it gets to the part where he shut the door and left the house. And it's he's like, I saw them bite her and then I left. And that's not what happened. So it's he only lies a little bit. But as the viewer, you are still kind of you son of a bitch.
And we're getting lots of flashbacks, and this continues throughout the movie. So it's clearly still haunting him, and sort of haunting him from beyond the grave when he turns into a zombie at the end of this movie.
Yes.
He
turns into a zombie halfway through
this movie. Yeah. But it seems like he still has some sort of memory of what happened.
I like his flashbacks. I like when it cuts back to Alice hammering on the window and all the sound is gone except the sound of her fist on the window. Mm-hmm. That's really cool stylistic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that he delivers this monologue to them, it also sort of seems like this is the story that he has told himself. He's tried to rationalize his actions for himself. And I really like Imogen Poots' response and her performance to this, where she's like, "We're just glad you're okay." And you can sort of tell that she can tell something's off.
Yes. Yeah. But she's also like genuinely happy that her dad is there still. You
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, the push pull, you feel it. Robert Carlyle delivers the fuck out of this monologue too. I mean, people who have listened to our Full Monty episode already know my feelings on Robert
Yeah.
Carlyle. He's one of my boys. He's one of my favorite actors. And I just think he's so great in this scene. He also is really good at playing a zombie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? What else he delivers the fuck out of?
Yeah, if you need a good zombie for your film, you can just like stick a blood pack in Robert Carlyle's mouth and let him go to town, man.
I do think Zombert Carlyle is one of our all-time greatest zombie performances.
It's one of the best zombie performances.
He's up there with Bub in Day of the Dead.
Yes.
Which is sort of the GOAT.
Yeah. But yeah, so he delivers this monologue. He tells them what's what with their mom being deceased and whatnot. We see a little bit more of like just like life under this American military government in this like settler colony in Great Britain. But the next big thing is basically like the American military has been like, hey, the Isle of Dogs is safe. You cannot cross the river into London proper because that zone hasn't been cleared yet. And the kids like sneak out and immediately just go back to their old house in London.
Yeah, and it's like they haven't seen an infected. You know,
In 6 months.
The infection's been wiped out as far as I know, but there's still like corpses and disease and diseased animals in the quarantine zone.
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner actually spies them through his scope, sneaking off the island, and that's just like Jeremy Renner is ostensibly a good guy in this movie, despite the fact that he probably shot a few unarmed civilians in a little while here.
Yeah. Yes.
But it is still really like. It's still really chilling getting that shot of the kids crossing across the river through his scope.
Yep. Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, at any time this guy could just shoot these kids.
Yeah. And he also doesn't like he radios it in, but that's all he does in terms of like doing anything about this situation. He's basically just like, hey, a couple of kids just left the quarantine zone, and eventually like they do send out like a party to go like retrieve them, which is how they end up getting found. But yeah, it is just kind of, it's a chilling moment watching him look at these kids through his sniper rifle.
And it's one of those things where you think about just like, yeah, at any time, like you could be at a sporting event or a concert, and there are just snipers
there's
up there.
There's just a guy watching you through his scope on his gun. Yeah.
And it's ostensibly for our protection, but like,
yeah, don't you feel safe?
Yeah,
don't you feel safe that a guy working for a fascist government is looking at you through a gun? Doesn't that make you feel good? So they go back to their house. This whole sequence, the house sequence where they find mom, is, I think, pretty effectively done in terms of like tension. I think it's pretty scary.
I think the whole sequence in the quarantine zone, like when they steal a scooter from like a pizza
moped,
place,
yeah.
and she has to find the keys in the pizza place, and there's like corpses everywhere.
Yeah.
Like this is some of the slower, more atmospheric stuff from 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Which I think this movie is, of course, a different movie trying different things. I think it could be a little bit more patient with some of those things.
I agree.
So I like this part where the movie slows down.
Yes.
And they get to their old house. They walk around. Everything's basically untouched. They take the photograph off of the fridge, and then the boy goes upstairs and sees that there's a room that's been boarded up and there's like rotting food in it, and it's clear that someone or something has been living there. You see his mom in the shot before they reveal her.
Yes.
You see her head poking out from behind the bed.
Oh, you see her before that. Before he opens the door to the attic room that she's in, she's like in the crack of the doorway.
Oh, okay.
It's,
I might have missed that too.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
And I think it's not actually her. I think it's her reflection in a mirror that you can see through the crack in the doorway. But it's so scary because it's just her like haunted, gaunt face. And then he thinks it's his sister because he kind of catches it out of the corner of his eye. And he's like, Tammy? And then he like opens the door. And then, yeah, and you can see her there too, behind the bed. And it is like, it's really effective horror filmmaking where it's like, oh fuck, right? And then, but then when you get the reveal, she's not a zombie, which I like that they play with that where it's like, is she a zombie at first? Because she's nonverbal, she's not talking. She seems like really traumatized and really shell-shocked. And so when she first approaches the kid, like he hugs her. And then she kind of starts like clawing at him a little bit. And it is just like she's trying to hug him tighter. But for a second, you're like, oh, fuck, is she a zombie?
Right. Yeah. And when they arrived in the quarantine or the Isle of Dogs, during their medical checkup, they established that the kid has 2 different colored eyes.
Right.
Which he gets from his mom. And that's not really something you notice, or at least I noticed in the prologue. But here they use the lighting to make it clear that they have 2 different colored eyes, and that Robert Carlyle's wife has survived, and that the 2 different color eyed thing is going to be important later.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the Americans show up and bring them back to. I keep saying I keep using the words quarantine zone interchangeably, but they bring them back to the safe zone.
Right, the safe zone. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah. This scene where the mom's getting like showered off and like decontaminated by the like American soldier like hazmat crew is also, it's just very like harrowing and upsetting. And it does remind me because she's like they're like spraying her with the hose and she's like screaming and like pressing her face up against the window and shit. And it did remind me just of some of the shit in 28 Days Later when you like meet the military dudes at the end of that movie, just like how casual and like routine cruelty has become to these people because of the situation that they're living in. And also like it echoes like real life, it's like war in Iraq stuff. It's like, oh yeah, like this quarantine scrub down procedure is like very upsetting and traumatizing to the person who undergoes it, but for us it's like a thing that we have to do like 100 times a day.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing. It's in a way that's like casual. It's like to the people who are doing this, it's just the very casual dehumanization of a group of people, because of policy and procedure.
Right. It's like, well, this is what you have to do.
Right.
You got to check that box on the paperwork.
And from from that perspective, like it makes sense that they have to do this. I think the performance lends it that more disturbing angle, and I think she does a really good job. It's very harrowing, and like she's clearly been traumatized, rendered almost catatonic by what has happened to her. And they identify that she's been bitten and it's healed in a scene where Rose Byrne examines her.
Yeah.
And all she could say is like, I want to see my kids.
Yes. We also see that like the blood vessels have burst in one of her eyes. So it's like kind of a visual indicator that like she got infected, but she's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they of course have identified that like she has some sort of immunity, but she is potentially a carrier.
Yes. And so Rose Byrne is like immediately like, this person's extremely important. We could maybe develop a cure based on them. They must be protected at all costs. But while Rose Byrne is like fighting the like red tape or whatever, because like the military dudes like Idris Elba and co are like, so we should kill her, right? And Rose Byrne's like, no. This is maybe an important scientific discovery. While all that's going on, Robert Carlyle's like, maybe I can like get in there and like get on the same page with my wife so that when we get home, we can like present a unified front to the kids who I just lied to about seeing her die.
Yeah.
Oh, I do like before he goes and sees her, the kids do get mad at him when mom is found alive.
Right.
They're like, you told us she died. And he's like, I thought she did, which is, to be fair, from his side, true. He saw her get snatched out of that window while he was running away from the house. So it's like, yeah, it is. And I like him kind of being like, I don't understand what's going on here, but it's good. We should be happy about this. And the kid's like not really buying his bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still trying to save face with them, and they, they feel very betrayed and stuff like that. But he's still just like, hey, we're going to be a big, happy family again. It's established earlier that he's like the security chief, so he has like key card access for the entire facility. So that's how he's able to get back there. But no one decided to leave a guard with the lady carrying the zombie virus.
With the lady who was bitten by zombies but is not a zombie. Seems like in a zombie apocalypse, that person, pretty important.
There's something... I want to pause for a second.
Yeah.
There's something about it being called the rage virus and the way that it's depicted.
Yes.
In both these films, obviously. Because, like, fast zombies are about to become the norm when 28 Days Later comes out. But the rage virus zombies are even more intense than the ones that we'll get in like Snyder Dawn of the Dead.
Right, because these zombies are not... It seems like the whole thing with the rage virus and why the name is so apropos is like, it seems like what the virus does is make you want to kill everyone around you in the most painful and horrible way possible. Like, it doesn't just make you want to, like, eat brains. It makes you want to, like, mangle the fuck out of people.
You're, like, violent, and it makes you violent and erratic.
And cruel.
And screaming,
and
like, you're in pain. And I sort of think that this is where some of the Romero DNA comes in, because the zombies in those movies in the Romero films are definitely like allegories for consumerism and racism and all of the tensions in building in the 60s and the 70s, and then the 80s with Day of the Dead. Here, I remember I forgot about this, actually. Of course, we know that like the rage virus starts in monkeys.
Yes,
in the first movie,
but it starts from showing monkeys war footage. Right. It's like, hey monkey, here's a video of fucking Saddam Hussein getting killed.
Well, this is before that.
Oh, you're right.
So I think in 28 Days it is like Garland and Boyle are picking up on just mounting political tensions around the world that boil over in September 11th, and then the fallout from that is the long drawn out violence of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan, and so then the rage virus becomes a metaphor for the rage and xenophobia and the fears of war on terror America.
Yes,
of the average American.
Modern Western civilization, really. Because it's like the Brits are clearly not immune to it, you know? I agree. I like that about these movies.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that really, like, I had sort of picked up on the, like, the political themes of this film the last time I watched it. But this time, it went a lot deeper for me. And I think it is... Just like, the rage zombie, it's the guy down the street, with too many guns and opinions about, Middle Eastern people getting on planes.
Yes, it's the guy who was at the No Kings March yesterday here in Flagstaff, Arizona, driving his fucking truck with a Trump flag on it, throwing shit at protesters. That guy has the rage virus. I wasn't at the protest. I heard that from someone.
There was a guy?
I heard that from someone who was there. Yeah. There
was a guy who pulled a gun in Phoenix, I think, that got arrested.
Yeah. If you fucking were at January 6th, you have the rage virus.
Yeah.
That's who has the rage virus.
And in the case of this movie, maybe the rage virus is a metaphor for family drama, tension, domestic violence, being angry at the fact that your husband left you to get bitten by zombies.
Yes. It is... It is interesting. I sort of think a potential knock against this movie
Yeah.
for me is I sort of think this movie has more interesting ideas than it has like time or interest in exploring them.
So here's the thing.
Yes.
I think I agree. I love the setup in this movie. I love the first half of this thing and how it's just like, you know, we get all of these interesting little snapshots of what the world is like in this, you know, new occupied zone in Britain. And then when the zombie action comes in the second half, it's not as good. Part of it is 28 days later
Yes.
is 13 minutes longer than this movie.
Which it does not feel at all.
28 days later is 113 minutes, so
Yeah.
close to 2 hours. This is 100 minutes, you know, that's closer to 90, not counting the credits.
Yeah.
And 28 days is, you know, people think of it as this intense horror, you know, horrifying zombie movie.
But there's a lot of like moments in that
Right.
movie where we slow way down.
Right. And we ramp up intensity in like short bursts here and there, and of
Yeah.
course the ending.
The pacing
But
is way better in that.
It's a much slower, more atmospheric movie that at points is kind of like, hey, hangout movie in the zombie apocalypse, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna have a little picnic in a little grass field
Right.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
And this one it has more ideas, more moving parts, and less time to pull it off. That some of the sequences in the second half, there, you know, once the outbreak happens, we have like 7 or 8 set pieces, one right after another.
Yes.
And
to the point where they kind of start bleeding into each other.
Yeah, and some of them fail to leave as much of an impression. I think if there was a 2 hour and 15 minute, maybe, you know, 2 and 20 version of this movie, it would be better.
I agree with you. It's sort of like I said, it feels like there are more interesting ideas here than there is time in the movie to explore them.
Yeah.
And that always kind of ends up making me feel a little frustrated with this movie. I still like this movie quite a lot. But like one of the things that always leaves me kind of frustrated is it's like the whole zombie infection as a way to explore family drama thing that this movie sort of explores. I feel like there's so much more juice to that just doesn't get squeezed.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's more to unpack here with like characters and character motivations. Like, is there more to what Idris Elba's character has going on and like his plans for, you know, this new society? Rose Byrne's character is like sort of just like she's a doctor and she's good and she wants the kids to get out.
Yes.
Could we do something a little bit more
Right.
complex with that?
Right, because there's a lot of stuff that's hinted at. I alluded to some of it earlier. There's a lot of stuff that's hinted at with her in the early part of the movie, fighting against the military establishment.
Yeah.
And being like, no, I'm a professional. I'm a scientist. You have to listen to me because I actually am an expert in this field. And the military guys being like, nah, don't listen to her. Like, shoot it with guns, right? And it's like, that seems like an interesting political idea to explore. Sort of the disdain that military governments and fascists have towards experts and intellectuals, right? And it's like, it's hinted at, we go nowhere with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, they're living under a militarized state where, you know, they're subject to the whims of these snipers looking in through their windows every night through their scopes. Are there more like sort of dystopian fascist authoritarian things going on with this society? And I'm like, you had some more runtime.
Yeah.
You could build all those things up and then we can watch it all fall down for the end of the movie when the zombie breakout happens.
If we had fewer shitty CGI shots of helicopters that don't actually exist in this movie, we would have had room for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
There's some the there were apparently like 400 CGI shots that had to be finished in 2 months for this movie because of like the production timeline. Just like that's the way things shook out. They were like, we're running against the clock here, guys. We got to finish this shit up real quick. And some of the CGI in this movie ends up looking okay. Some of it does not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely on my full screen standard def DVD doesn't hold up in that 720p or 480p.
Yeah.
Probably not even on the Blu-ray.
Pretty much any time a helicopter is on screen in this movie, you're like, that's a fucking cartoon helicopter. That doesn't look like anything. You know, like it looks like a video game.
Yeah.
It really bummed me out.
Yeah.
I was like, fly a real fucking helicopter,
Yeah.
please.
So this movie's about to become very loud and dumb, occasionally effective, but like kind of the boilerplate bigger and better sequel that is maybe not bigger and better.
Right.
However, I think one area where the ambiguity of a moment and the kind of slower pacing of a moment really works is this scene where
Yes.
Robert Carlyle confronts his wife. And
Really, she confronts him. He just does the work to get into the room.
yeah, he
with
walks
her.
in the door.
And then she confronts him by looking at him like that. She looks at him so pissed off.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, right. I get it.
And-
she's justified in feeling pissed off.
And they kiss.
Well,
Well-
yeah, this is the ambiguity that you're talking
Yeah.
about, right? Because he's like, he comes in and the first thing he does is apologize.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm so sorry. And you believe it. You believe that he feels bad about this, right? And she's kind of just like watching him stone-faced. And he's like, I love you so much. Like, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so glad you're back. And I'm so sorry. And then she says, the only thing she says is, I love you, Don. And he says like, oh, I love you too. And then he goes in for the kiss.
Yeah.
And the ambiguity of it is like, is that a calculated move on her part because she knows that she's going to infect him, or is it not?
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't answer the question, and I like that it can kind of be either thing.
Yeah. And this is all while Rose Byrne is like, she could still spread it through her saliva as they're like making out with tongue and all that
Yeah,
in the close up.
It is a very like gross, wet, sloppy kiss
Yeah.
because Rose Byrne has just been like, saliva!
Yeah. But her performance as he starts like coughing and convulsing and transforming, she kind of looks at him with that same stoic, dead-eyed expression. And then when he
starts
coming at her and he starts fully transforming, she looks a little bit more panicked, and it's almost like it could be a couple things that she like didn't expect this and now she's actually scared, or she knew this was going to happen and regrets doing it,
right,
because of what it does to him.
Yeah.
And then we get just primo, crisp, grade A eye gouging.
Really good eye gouging.
He just sinks those fucking thumbs into her eye sockets.
I love an eye gouging in a movie. It is one of my favorite acts of violence that you can put in a movie for me to look at. Just anytime someone's getting like, especially thumbs in eye sockets. Fucking whips so much ass.
It's I love eye trauma, and this is some great eye trauma.
It's really good. And it's also like very like it is also upsetting, and like you said there's sort of some tones here of like he turned into a zombie, but this is still a husband doing this to a wife.
Yeah.
So there is still kind of like this overtone of like this is like a domestic violence metaphor, and it's like yeah.
And he is still like having flashbacks or memories of his wife.
Yes.
While implied by the editing when he's a zombie through the rest of the movie.
Yes.
So it is sort of like he's just like, this movie's like, God damn it, he's just tied down to this wife and these kids, and he just wants to get rid of them.
He just wants to run off and be a zombie.
Yeah.
Hang out with his other zombie friends. Go to the pub.
The first time that I saw this, I was like, holy shit, they're turning the main character into a zombie halfway through the movie?
Yeah, they do.
I don't know what else is going to happen. And,
it's a bold choice.
And it is sort of like, there's sequences here that I like towards the end of this movie, but it is sort of like the last really, really good magic trick that this movie has before it sort of just becomes another action movie.
Right. Totally.
But yeah, I love it.
I love him turning into a zombie. I love that we had some of this in the Danny Boyle directed Cold Open, but we have it here again with Carlyle zombie. I like in a 28 Days Later movie.
Please. Zombert Carlyle.
Zombert Carlyle. I apologize.
That's his full name.
Zombert. Zombie is short for Zombert. Though in a 28 Days Later movie, when the camera is like attached to the shoulder of a zombie, and it's basically like zombie over the shoulder POV, that happens here when Robert Carlyle turns. I love those shots, and there's one in the opening too. It's just so great, and they do that in Days too, where it'll be like the over the shoulder zombie cam.
Yeah. The over the shoulder zombie cam when he breaks out and he starts attacking some of the soldiers and the guards and stuff is really cool here,
Yeah.
and it's all like, the sound's like either silent or muffled, and we get like sad music. Like that's really effective stuff.
I think the score in this movie is pretty good too.
It has its moments where it's a little too 2000s.
Yeah.
Bleeps and bloops. The in a house in a heartbeat, which is the song that plays, like the famous piece of scoring that's been used in countless other, not countless, but several other things. It's used in an action scene in Kick-Ass. I'm like the big daddy action scene is like, that's the fucking 28 Days Later music.
Yeah.
That plays during the end of 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
They use that thing 3 times in this movie.
Yeah.
They play it again at the prologue, and then at a couple of these sequences for the rest of this movie. And it works in the prologue.
A little overused.
Definitely overused by the time we get to the second or third
I
time
agree.
they're dropping that.
I agree.
one.
Like the third time I was like, all right.
we get it.
All right. Like figure something else out. The first
There's
movie
gotta we have to have more themes than just this.
yeah.
Like, come
the
on.
first movie we had Godspeed You Black Emperor. Like we can do a soundtrack.
That
cut.
was another thing. That might be how I got into Godspeed.
Hell yeah.
Or first heard of them was because of that, which I think that was true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Was because they used East Hastings and the London sequence.
Yeah, it turns out zombie movies more crowd pleasing, little bit more of an audience than post rock. So a lot of people got into Godspeed through 28 Days Later, and not the other way around.
It helps with that Godspeed makes music that is just like tailor made for the apocalypse.
That's right. But yeah, I think the soundtrack in this movie is mostly pretty good. But yeah, I do agree. Like some of the soundtrack decisions, like reusing the same theme over and over, it gets a little tiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scene where he's like going apeshit on all the military dudes is really cool. And then the kids like get Rose Byrne like locks them in. Is it Rose Byrne or some other guy? Like locks them in like a containment room because like everything's going to shit. And I like the scene again, it's like just a great horror moment where the two kids get locked in like this containment cell, and the soldiers are like, okay, like wait here, like we're gonna come back for you.
Yeah.
And then they leave, and then like you just hold on these swinging doors because it's like a medical facility with like the swinging hospital doors. It's just holding on it, and it's like cutting from like Imogen Poots and Mr. Muggleton. Just watching the doors, and it, like silent, like it's just a silent moment of
Mr.
tension.
Muggleton. That's a fucking character on Coronation Street, or like
I couldn't remember
like
his first. Is it
fucking
Mackintosh?
Mackintosh
Muggleton?
Muggleton is that kid's
God
name.
damn. Mackintosh Muggleton, by the way, is our age now. There is a guy walking around our age with the name Mackintosh Muggleton right now. And you know what? I would like to have a beer with him. Mackintosh Muggleton, if you're listening, hit me up. Yeah, they're watching the doors, and then like a zombie just like bursts through the doors and like runs up to the glass and like smashes up against it, and it's again like a good like horror moment.
Yeah. I think Robert Carlyle kills the guard that walks away too.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot starts happening all at once. A lot of folks start dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And so basically it immediately goes to hell.
Yeah.
This is the thing with the rage virus. Once one guy has the rage virus, suddenly 100 people have the rage virus. That's another thing I love about the 28 Days Later zombies is it's like as soon as you get infected, you're a zombie in like 4 seconds. It's when Brendan Gleeson gets like the drop of blood in his eye in the first one, and it's like, oh fuck, he's like immediately a zombie.
Well, and I also like that the movies try to. It seems like they try to infect people in different ways. Like there are zombies that will just pounce on a guy and vomit blood onto them
into your mouth.
That's so good.
It's great. It's great.
The eye drop thing is because it's one of those things that you don't even like think of. When Brendan Gleeson gets turned, which is of course so fucking sad.
Yeah.
Partially because Brendan Gleeson's an incredible actor and he delivers the shit out of that scene.
Yeah. And anyway,
but they do a good job of varying it up, so it's not always just like, oh yeah, a guy gets bitten.
No, yeah, they do it in different ways.
Yeah. And in some cases, like people just get killed by the zombies and ripped apart, or eyes gouged out, rather than get bitten.
Right, like the kid's mom who's immune anyway, right? But he like doesn't like he bites her first, but then he just like smashes her around a bunch.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So. Basically, immediately, the military guys are like, okay, well, shit's gone to hell in a handbasket. Time to shoot everyone. It happens pretty quick.
They try to... they are shooting zombies for a good portion of this, where it's like the courtyard, we're getting lots more shots through the scope. They're taking out zombies left and right, and then but you can tell they're having trouble picking targets.
Yeah.
And at one point, Idris Elba, I think, says over the radio, like, okay, weapons free, shoot anything. There are lots of kills from Jeremy Renner's perspective, and it is never really clear if he's shooting humans or zombies.
Yeah. Yep. This sequence where we're shooting the horde in the courtyard, and Idris Elba gives the command to just like weapons free, shoot anything that moves. This is another of my favorite moments in the movie.
I think so too.
Because this scene is like so It accomplishes what the kind of the third act of 28 Days Later accomplishes as well, which is like sort of a fresh take on the humans are the real monsters thing. It's humans are the real monsters, but in a way where it's like, oh, like this is sort of like mundane, recognizable evil. Even the guys who are a little bit more overtly villainous at the end of 28 Days Later are kind of like, oh, these are like the kinds of guys who like run our government, you know?
Yeah.
And in this sequence, it's like, oh yeah, like this shit is extremely recognizable to anyone who is watching the news in the late 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, like Christopher Eccleston basically says to Cillian Murphy, like, yeah, so I lied to you guys about this being the answer to infection. In reality, I promised all these military guys women, and we're going to repopulate the earth, and I'm going to sell the woman and this young girl that you brought into sexual slavery for these military guys.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this with a glass of wine in my hand very calmly and like logically, because the human race has to survive, and I'm the villain of this movie.
Yes.
Like there's not, I mean, some of those guys are definitely like over the top villains.
Yeah.
But he's like, there's nary a mustache twirl from this guy.
Yes.
And
it is the thing that these movies are dealing with, right? Is it's like because the zombies are like a metaphor for warfare, right? It's like the humans are also like the way that humans respond to it is just reflective of how humans respond to war in our real world, which is generally with more war, right? And so it's like it's just the thing of like, yeah, there are no winners in this situation. Like war makes monsters of us all, you know? And so it's like even if you think you're the good guy, you're going to be doing shit that is like morally reprehensible.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's sort of an extension of what Romero's dealing with in the much underseen and underrated Day of the Dead.
Yes,
his third zombie film.
Great movie.
The types of guys who want to join the military just want to kill people. And the zombie apocalypse gives them that opportunity, and they have access to all these guns. And this, you know, we wouldn't ever do this in our world. We wouldn't ever give the military access to all this stuff. But it's like, it is just like the end point of all of this pent up rage and aggression and dehumanization of the enemy and access to weapons and boredom and this is the end result of that. It's just like now civilians are on the chopping block too, because procedures have failed and policies have failed, and what's put in place, the orders from up top now deprioritize like human life.
Yes.
It's
and that's how you get fucking drone bombing weddings.
Yeah. I mean, or
that's how you get that shit. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
kids getting shot in the Middle East because they're supposed combatants and all of that. It's like,
yeah.
I think it's really, really well depicted in this scene.
I didn't expect us to be I didn't expect the 28 weeks later episode to be one of our more like heady like it's like, oh yeah, this like zombie sequel, and it's like it feels like this is where we're doing some of our like deepest analysis ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I sort of just mush-mouthed my way through my analysis.
I feel like you were coherent,
but we're getting there.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they shoot the fuck out of a bunch of people, and then Jeremy Renner starts having a problem with this. He's sort of like, hey, I don't really like that I don't know if I'm killing humans or zombies.
Yeah.
Maybe I should stop taking orders. And he kind of goes rogue here.
Maybe I should become a character in the movie.
Yeah.
And be a good guy.
He kind of goes rogue here. He teams up with Rose Byrne to like save the kids, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's his arc for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
In the chaos, Rose Byrne and the kids get split up. A bunch of survivors hole up in this like warehouse. And I really like this scene too, because this is another moment where the movie gets a chance to slow down and be more atmospheric, where it's like dark and people are just sort of like like these people are all like traumatized and haunted, and they're just sort of hiding out in this little room as Rose Byrne and I don't remember which kid, because the kids get split off, but
yeah.
As our characters,
I think it's Tammy
in.
with Rose Byrne, because I think the boy gets split up.
Yeah,
from them.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But it is like they're walking through this warehouse, and like people just keep popping up, sort of drifting in and out of the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's it's like they all just went through this like traumatic event, and now they're just all surviving and hiding out together and trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And then Jeremy Renner shows up and he's like, "Come with me if you want to live. Come with me if you want to download an app where we can discuss things about me."
I forgot about that.
Can we pause and talk about Jeremy Renner as an actor? Let's just rip that Band-Aid off, because we haven't done that yet.
Sure.
I like him in this movie.
Yes.
I like Jeremy Renner generally. Not enough to download an app.
Yes.
Where I can discuss him.
Jeremy Renner discussion app.
He had a moment.
Yeah.
In the late 2000s, early 2010s, where Hollywood was trying to make him a thing.
Yeah.
Very much in the same way that they did with like Sam Worthington and Jai Courtney.
Yes, I was going to say Jai Courtney.
I think Jeremy Renner is the better actor of those three.
He's better. He is certainly better than Jai Courtney.
Yes. I think he's good in this movie. I think he's excellent in The Hurt Locker.
He's also really good in Arrival.
Yeah, I haven't seen Arrival in a while.
Yeah.
He's really good in Mission Impossible. There's a point where it was like they're trying to set up Jeremy Renner as maybe taking over Mission Impossible if Tom Cruise leaves, which of course didn't
happen. And then Tom Cruise was like, "Actually, fuck you, Jeremy Renner. I'm going to do this until I die."
Tom Cruise climbed the Burj Khalifa in Ghost Protocol, and he's like, "Actually, I think I want to continue to risk my life for movies for the rest of my life, so fuck off, Jeremy Renner." But Jeremy Renner is in the next Mission Impossible movie.
Nice.
And he's also good in that one too, so they at least gave him that. Then they were like, "Hey, what if we did the Bourne franchise and just for some reason decided to swap out Matt Damon for Jeremy Renner and just continued on
a guy
with that.
Who has I would argue 1/4 of the charisma of Matt Damon." I don't dislike Jeremy Renner.
No, yeah, that's true. Like
but he is significantly less charismatic than Damon.
Yes.
The camera does not love Jeremy Renner the way it loves Matt Damon. My wife also does not love Jeremy Renner. I alluded to this in the last episode. High Priestess Pod, not a fan of Jeremy Renner, and she acknowledges it is unfair. Her hatred of Jeremy Renner is unfair because really what bothers her is his face, which he has no control over. She doesn't like his face.
He does seem like the generic male that pops up in a character creator for an RPG.
I described his face, and High Priestess Pod agreed as he has sad dog face.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
If you look at his face looks like a sad dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically like a sad like pit bull or like bull mastiff or some shit. Like he's got like sad like a dog with jowls, you know?
Yeah.
He's got sad dog face.
He's good as a light spice. I don't think he works as Hollywood leading man. And I think that's why he works here. And also because there is that darker element to his character.
Yeah.
With the, him, maybe he just shot a bunch of people.
He maybe did a war crime.
He maybe did a war crime.
Yeah.
In a zombie movie. And this is like a good actually I don't know if this was made before or after Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
But it's sort of something that he shares with his character in Hurt Locker where it's just like I think he just likes war too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I like the scene in the like warehouse or whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually they get reunited with the boy kid.
Yeah, it's in the warehouse.
Oh yeah, that's here. Yeah.
At some point here, we realize that Zombert Carlyle, is now stalking the kids and following the kids.
I love when he's on the street. Zombert Carlyle is on the street, and like a fucking bus passes or some shit. Or like an army Humvee passes or some shit, and he just disappears like he's like he's a ninja.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I unironically love it, even though it sort of makes no sense as zombie behavior, that he is like stalking one specific person or two specific people, I guess. I kind of like that the rage virus gives you freedom to do this with zombies, though, because it's like it is unclear how much or how little the rage virus infected are cognizant and aware of their former lives and former selves.
Yeah, and even like their just awareness of their surroundings, like that church scene, like Killian walks in and the zombies are sort of like, if I remember, they're like dormant, catatonic kind of, until he says something and then they all wake up.
Yeah, he goes, hello, and then they're like,
yeah.
Is around here when, it is around here after when Zombert Carlyle is stalking his children. It's around here where the sniper on the roof is shooting at them in the street. It is around here.
Yeah, he leads a group of expendable income that we can kill off in the subsequent action sequences that will make up the latter half of this movie.
Jeremy Renner was like basically like, I'm gonna be in the movie now. Hey, people in the movie, come with me, and a few others tag along because we're gonna need some fodder.
Yeah. So there's a sniper at the end of the street shooting at them, and he turns to the Weasley. I was gonna say Wesley, the like Ron Weasley's older brother reject, who's crying and pissing himself.
This
and
British,
he's like,
this spindly British ginger.
Yes. This poor pale British beanpole who's crying and pissing himself, and is like, hey, I'm gonna use you as bait.
And then instead, the kid's like, I would love to be bait, and runs out. And Jeremy Renner kills the sniper. This sequence I also like.
I like it too. Jeremy Renner takes a long time to shoot this sniper.
He does.
And
that
I'm
sniper
sorry,
gets a lot of shots off at this kid.
That sniper should have bisected that kid like a few shots ago.
Yeah. But he does. Jeremy Renner does shoot this guy, and I like this as a moment for his character.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, like now he has basically deserted his unit, and is now just like friendly firing other U.S. military personnel because he's like, well, I have to keep these kids alive. You know, he's like making a moral choice that like counteracts all of the like orders that he's been given.
So Harold Perrineau's in this movie too. He's a helicopter pilot.
Right. Yes.
And he's been talking with Jeremy Renner over the radio and says that they're about to firebomb the district.
Yes.
And they need to get out. And he'll pick them up in his helicopter. So they make it out of the district just before it gets bombed. And there's like some like decent CGI explosions here.
Yeah. Some of it's okay. Some of it is better than others, you know, but there's a lot of shots of this firebombing. So there's some room for you to be like, well, that one's not great. That one looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I do like the shot where I like a couple of the shots. One is where the fucking firebomb comes into like Alice's room where she's like still laying with her fucking gouged out eyes and the body just catches on fire. Like that's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Robert Carlyle survives, and I like the shot of him like hiding around a corner.
Yes. Very smart zombie. Zombie Carlyle, it seems like Don, better zombie than he was a man.
Yeah, definitely seems like it.
His calling was to be a zombie.
He's got more determination, more grit,
Yes.
more tenacity.
Yes, he's definitely braver as a zombie than he was as a man.
I'm always cautious about zombie movies introducing zombie sentience,
right,
and
intelligent
intelligence.
zombies. Yeah.
Because I think I'm just a bit of a purist, but even then, like Romero's experimenting that with his movies too. But like, I think this is I think this movie does a pretty good job of introducing it.
I think it
for
works.
that character.
Yeah.
Because then it opens up questions about like how intelligent are the other rage zombies. So they make it to a park.
Yes, and by the time we're in the field, it is daytime. I will say a lot of what we've just mentioned, basically from the courthouse square shootout to the firebombing, has all been nighttime. And I do have to say, just another gripe I have about this movie: the day for night in this movie, pretty egregious.
It
does not look convincingly like night photography, and it does kind of just like, oh, we slapped a blue filter on everything. Like it looks kind of like ass.
It's much grayer. It's like a darker
Yeah.
gray. I think if it was
I don't
blue,
like
it
it.
would be a little bit more charming.
I don't like it. I think it's bad day for night.
Yeah.
But then we're actually in daytime in this field. And the helicopter pilot, I think, is like a little bit like pissed off about like, you have me rescuing these fucking kids. Like I didn't want to be looped into this shit.
Yes, the pilot radios that a horde is on its way. I also like the scene where they just get down and hide in the field and try to let the horde pass.
Yes.
But as the chopper's landing, Ron Weasley's brother or whatever tries to climb onto one of the struts of the helicopter.
Yes. It's just hanging off this helicopter. And then the helicopter pilot's like, just decides we're all going to hell tonight. Because he's like, I got to do something about this zombie horde. And then he just like fucking cuts up 1 million zombies in his helicopter rotor blades.
Yeah.
And like, in theory and in certain moments in this sequence, I like this. A helicopter rotor chopping up 100 zombies is a thing that obviously I'm into. Some of the effects in this sequence are not good.
The effects aren't good.
Yeah.
It's
still kind of fun.
There's some fun stuff. Like I think a head gets cut in half.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't belong in this movie.
Yeah. That's really the thing, right?
It belongs in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Like put it there. Okay, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Up to this point in the movie, fun has not really been the order of the day. It's been more thematic and depressing, and I think that the movie should have stuck with that rather than kind of leaning into the generic action tropes that this second half leans into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think this is one of the lower points of the second half. I like the buildup. I like there is like we get a chance to kind of breathe in the field where there's like the carousel and like we get some shots of the establishing shots of the carousel. Everyone's sort of collecting themselves, and then the horde comes by and they're all hiding. But like we're killing a CGI helicopter killing a bunch of CGI zombies.
That's like World War Z.
Save
shit.
that for World War Z.
Yeah.
Like, save that for that shitty World War Z. Oh God,
that movie sucks so much ass.
God, no, I have to, because I watched it recently.
That movie blows.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
What an insulting piece of shit. Max Brooks's World War Z, which I have not read in a while, but at the time was like one of the best books I had ever read, and I think probably still like a pillar of horror fiction. Fucking Mark Forster defiles that book with that movie.
He turns it into a fucking 2-hour Pepsi ad.
Which 28 Days Later is also a 2-hour Pepsi ad.
Yeah.
A lot of Pepsi in that movie.
There's a lot of Pepsi, but it is so much less egregious than the Pepsi product.
Yeah.
When in World War Z, when fucking Brad Pitt has like made it through the whole movie, he gets like the fucking zombie cure or whatever, and then he's like, yes, now time to reward myself, the hero of this zombie movie, with an ice cold Pepsi.
The crisp, refreshing taste of Pepsi.
It is.
It's like his third act cigarette in a horror movie where like, you killed all the vampires and then the hero lights a cigarette. It's that but a Pepsi.
Yes, it is insulting product placement. It's like grotesque. Anyway.
God, what a fucking piece of I think World War Z was maybe the I think it made money.
The death knell of the
I think
zombie.
it was the death knell of like the cinematic zombie film.
Yeah. Anyway, so this helicopter shit is better than that, but it's still not great. And it doesn't belong in this movie.
No.
But yeah, so all that shit happens. Then like fucking the survivor group makes it back to like a part of London that has now had like nerve gas deployed.
Yeah,
because they don't get in the helicopter.
Right, the helicopter pilot's going to pick them up at the stadium.
Yeah.
So
they have to get to the stadium.
Yeah, and the nerve gas starts killing some of the zombies.
I do like the scene. The reason I bring up this nerve gas section, I do like the scene where they get in the car because they're going to try and take a car to the stadium.
Yeah, it's just Rose Byrne and the kids and Jeremy Renner at this point.
Yes, everybody else is eating shit. And I like the sequence. It's like appropriately tense and really good, where they're trying to get the car to start, and Jeremy Renner has to like get out and push it to push start it because it's a manual transmission.
Yeah,
and it's stalled. So he's like gets out to push start it, even though he knows that the nerve gas is probably going to kill him. And he gets out and push starts it, and the nerve gas doesn't kill him. He gets fucking lit on fire.
Yeah.
He gets like flamethrowed, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get like CGI helicopters be damned. At least we get like a guy set on fire in this movie. At least
we get a Jeremy Renner stunt double burning.
Yeah.
On camera.
And I like the shots of the soldiers in the hazmat suits walking through the mist of nerve gas.
That shit's good.
That's good. It's
again, another really good visual in this movie.
Yeah.
Some of the cinematography is pretty good.
And an appropriately tense sequence that I think could have been drawn out even more, or just given more room to breathe rather than like one after another. All these sequences coming, because then after the Jeremy Renner stunt double gets barbecued, which is glorious.
Yeah.
And also like. I remember at the time kind of being surprised by it because
right, because you think he's going to be there for the rest of the movie,
right?
You think he's filling the Cillian Murphy role of like hero who's going to survive the movie,
right?
Yeah.
Because immediately after this, we get another scene with a helicopter where Rose Byrne's driving this fucking BMW sedan or whatever, and outrunning this Apache attack helicopter.
Sure.
And it sucks.
Yeah,
I think this part sucks.
It sucks.
The CGI helicopter is shit.
Yep.
It's so quick that it barely leaves an impression and feels like it should be in another movie.
Completely agree.
And kind of defies defies logic, even in a movie where it's like it's a science fiction horror movie, so you have to suspend disbelief a little bit. It's like it's just sort of too far for this universe.
I agree. It doesn't belong in this movie. It belongs in World War Z.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get to the stadium eventually.
Yeah,
after this shit.
they make it to the underground.
Yeah. Oh, the underground's first.
Yeah.
Right. Duh. This is where the climax of the movie happens. They make it to the underground, and they are like going through like these abandoned like train tunnels and shit, and they get jumped by Zombert Carlyle, who has stalked them all the way here. Apparently, while that sedan was outrunning that Apache attack helicopter, Zombert Carlyle was keeping pace with both on foot. He's just like running after this BMW, being like, "My kids are in there. I'm gonna get them." Should be doing that voice with a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Robert
I
Carlyle.
wonder how. My thing with fast zombies is like,
I'll eat your brains.
I'll eat your fucking brains
Sorry,
out, you wee cunts.
Scottish zombies.
Um,
I'll have your insides for haggis.
does it? Like, how does it affect the muscles? Like, because fast zombies always seem to be moving so fast. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what about fat guys who are fast zombies or old people who are fast zombies?
What's
it doing to them?
I don't know. Your body might just give out. Like the rage virus makes you try to move like that, and you just can't, and you just fucking collapse. I guess.
It'd be funny if there was like a zombie in a wheelchair just going rah, 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 and just like going in circles.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
Just
I
like
don't
doesn't
know.
have the motor control to pilot the wheelchair correctly.
Well, he can't get out of the wheelchair
That's true.
because
Legs don't work.
legs don't work unless the zombie virus gives you. You know, fucking
is
Usain Bolt
magic
powers.
Yeah, or like an old fast zombie would be fun to see. I don't know if there's any old fast zombies that you see in these movies.
That's one thing that I miss in zombie movies of this era. I guess aside from shit like Zombieland, like Romero always had a good eye for like, let's make a little character here.
Right.
Let's make
one of these zombies a funny little guy.
Let's make a zombie a clown. There's always a clown zombie in
Right.
his movies. Or like the Hare Krishna zombie in Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Let's have a little fun character, and like we could use more of those.
Yeah, I agree. The rage zombies, you barely ever even get a good look at any of them.
Well, because of the fucking shaky cam.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the shaky cam, brother.
Exactly. Yeah, if you play a zombie in a 28 Days Later movie, that means you will mostly not be on screen. It means there will be a close up of your mouth going bah.
But they did look for extras who had like an athletic background,
Right, like contortionists and stuff.
So they could flail their bodies around and also keep pace.
Yes. And I think
Things.
the movement stuff of the zombies in both this movie and the first movie is great stuff.
Yeah. I think they're definitely the best depiction of fast zombies that we have, probably.
So they're in the underground. They get jumped by Zombert Carlyle. He kills Rose Byrne.
There is another moment here where the movie gets a chance to slow down, where she's trying to guide them through the night vision scope.
Yes.
And that's like good stuff.
Yes, it is really good stuff, and it's the night vision scope, like again with the crosshairs.
Yeah.
But it's not attached to a gun. She's just holding it.
Yeah.
And I love all those visuals of like the kids in the crosshairs and her guiding them over like all of these corpses, like these rotting bodies from the first wave of the rage outbreak, that are like desiccated and shit. And she's like to the left, like trying to get them to move out of the way from like stepping on corpses. It's really that shit is really good. I like that a lot.
And then, she gets attacked by Robert Carlyle.
Yeah.
And he beats her to death with the scope, and we see it through the scope. That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Pretty fun. Yep.
Yeah.
And then he turns on the two kids, right? He's going to try and kill them. And Imogen Poots has to shoot her own dad.
Yeah.
And this moment is handled, I think, appropriately. I feel like the arc of this A plot of the movie, which is like the family stuff, I feel like resolves in a pretty satisfying way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kid gets bitten.
But the kid does get bitten. The younger kid.
The younger kid gets bitten, and he doesn't turn because he's immune.
Because he's got the two different colored eyes.
We do get the CG, like the shitty CGI,
The CGI is bad.
of like the rage virus in his eyes.
That's bad.
That's not great.
It's not good. But I
like the visual motif of the eyes throughout the movies, but like just visually the effect doesn't work here.
Yeah. But I do like the moment where Imogen Poots shoots him,
Mhm.
and it's like slow-mo, and the moment is kind of treated like as like an emotional thing for her character, where it's like, yeah, he's trying to kill us, but he's still our dad, and also he's a piece of shit, and all that. I think it works.
Yeah,
It's pretty satisfying in terms of like an emotional moment of like catharsis for the story, right? And then the movie keeps going after that. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like that maybe should have just been the end of the movie.
But they make it to the stadium and take off in the helicopter. And...
Yes. And then the helicopter is just shown abandoned with no idea of what happened to the characters, which is fine. I don't really need them to tie this up necessarily, but I'm like, why show them escaping on the helicopter if then a minute later you're going to show the empty abandoned helicopter and be like, where'd they go? I don't know. I don't know.
They've gone to France.
They went to France, and the zombies have found the channel. This is not a drill. The zombies
the Eiffel
have
Tower
breached
has
the
fallen.
channel. Yes.
And it's like clearly like, hey, stay tuned for 28 months later, coming to a theater near you, or never.
Never. Yes.
And I just want to say, Danny Boyle, Alex Garland, I am so mad at you for robbing me of the chance to see France destroyed by the rage virus.
Yeah, we really do need to see some frogs eat shit.
I want to see these French people just die by the thousands.
I'm allowed to say frogs. I'm talking about white French people when I say frogs.
Is that a term that people use to describe white Frenchmen?
People use frogs as a slur for the French. Yes,
That's good.
But I feel like I'm allowed.
Yeah.
I'm not French, but I'm allowed
it's
to.
Always okay.
You're
to
allowed
be
to be racist to white
French
Europeans.
people. Yeah, white Europeans in general, especially the French.
Yes. Anyway, I want to see those frogs eat shit.
Yeah.
Kill those frogs.
We have to protect. Oh, I'm getting. That's not kind of. We have to protect the Mona Lisa. Sacre bleu.
Oh, sacre bleu. The rage virus has entered the Louvre.
Beats them off with the baguettes.
Oh no, the zombies are going up the steps of Sacre Coeur. It will take them a while. That's a lot of stairs.
The zombies have taken over Paris. We surrender.
While waving the white flag. the rage zombies are like running into Paris, and all these French people are just waving white flags at it. It's okay. We can live in peace. We will do whatever you want. It's okay. You are our government now. We will elect a rage zombie president. Yeah. That's
I want to see that movie. Better movie than this one.
Yeah.
Justice.
Yes.
It's 28 weeks later.
Mm.
The greatest movie ever made.
David, no. This movie has some problems that we have alluded to. However, I also like a lot of things in this movie quite a bit. So I'm giving this one a no. A pretty definitive no. But so much of this shit could be in a greatest movie ever made.
Yeah.
The opening sequence could have been in a greatest movie ever made. The scene where they're fucking shooting all the people in the square could have been in a greatest movie ever made. The scene where Robert Carlyle gets infected with the kiss could have been in a greatest movie ever made. There's the connective tissue in this thing does it a little bit of a disservice. And like we talked about, I think a longer version of this movie that had room to explore some of these big ideas that I think the movie is introducing in a very interesting way, but then not running with in a way that is satisfying. Like if that potential movie that could have existed, I think I would have liked more. The one that we got, I still like quite a bit. I like this movie. I think it is a good zombie movie. There are moments of this movie that I love. But it doesn't quite come together for me. It's just missing. It's missing some stuff, and then there's also some stuff here where it kind of tries to go balls to the walls action that doesn't work for this movie. So no, I harbor this movie no ill will. I have fond feelings toward it, but it's not the greatest movie ever made.
Just for my own curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and this can be unofficial in case we ever cover this movie in the future.
Yeah.
What would you give the first one?
I would give it a yes.
You give it a yes?
For sure.
Okay.
I am one of those horror guys who is like 28 Days Later is a 5-star masterpiece.
Okay.
I kind of think that movie is unimpeachable.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just
David.
curious.
David, is 28 Days weeks 28 weeks later the greatest movie ever made?
Yeah, Justice.
Yes.
28 weeks later, or as the British may say, 14 fortnights later.
Yeah, you're right.
Did I do the math correctly?
That's
on
how
that?
that math works out. Fortnight's 2 weeks, yeah. Yeah, 28 divided by 2 is 14.
It's so funny
Good
that they have
job.
a different name for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. A fortnight. A fortnight.
No.
Yeah.
No. I basically, for all the reasons that you said, I don't want to repeat them in full, but I think with more time in this movie and a more patient pace where we can build themes and characters in the world, this could have been something really special. That being said, I think it's a worthy follow-up to the first one, and definitely in keeping with a lot of the spirit of the first movie. It's just sort of when it starts falling back on the stereotypical bigger and better action movie or bigger and better sequel that it wasn't doing for most of the runtime up to this point, that it loses a bit of luster for me.
Yeah.
But I think the performances are good. I'm not in love with Rose Byrne, but she's fine for what that character is. But I think Robert Carlyle's good. The kids are good. Jeremy Renner's really good.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the kids. Both of them are good.
Yeah.
We talked about Imogen Poots.
Yeah.
We mostly talked about Mackintosh Muggleton's name,
Yeah.
but his performance in the movie
He is
is
very
also
good. He is very good, despite his silly name.
Good kid performance.
Idris Elba's...
I think in addition to his silly name, not despite it.
Oh, yeah?
I wouldn't assume a Mackintosh Muggleton was going to be a bad actor.
Okay.
That sounds like a good actor to me.
Idris Elba's good, too, even when he's just barking orders in
an American accent. Yeah.
But it's kind of like it's hard because I'm sort of like this. My attitude toward this movie is like, wow, I didn't know you had it in you 28 weeks later. And then I'm also like, you could have been so much better.
Yeah.
You could have done something really special too.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good movie. I think it's an underrated movie that has a lot of interesting ideas and things to say that doesn't quite stick the landing with them. But it's definitely worth watching, and I'm glad to have it in my collection alongside the original, which I would probably give a no to the original.
Okay.
And that's more of a personal enjoyment thing. It's a movie that I respect, and appreciate more so than enjoy. And I think there are some flaws in there too, but
okay.
Yeah. So, no to 28 weeks later, but I think it's a good movie and worth seeing.
Cool.
All the same.
All right. Oh, David, what are we talking about next week? Or do I need to answer that question?
You need to answer that question.
Okay.
Because I did technically leave it in your hands.
It is in my hands.
Because we're coming up on my theme month, which we'll reveal next episode. So I wanted to give you the chance to pick a movie before I pick a bunch.
E.T. and I collaborated on this decision. They gave me a list of films that they thought might be good for us to cover in this slot. And I have selected one. Which is The Princess Bride. So we're going to be talking about Wesley and Buttercup and Inigo Montoya next week.
Cool.
With The Princess Bride. A movie that we've both seen, but,
Yeah.
If you it'll be fun to go back to.
If you and E.T. want to talk about it, all I can say is, as you wish.
That's right. Another Certified Justice Burkett childhood classic, this one. More on that next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on all of our socials. And if you found us through TikTok, you can send us a little message on there. Give us a little like, give us a little comment. Let us know if there's a movie that you want us to cover there. I know that we always say at the end of the episode that you should send us an email with movie suggestions, but you can drop it in our TikTok comments.
Yeah.
You can drop it in our Instagram comments. Just hit us up on all the shit. Hit us up on IG, on the Nazi website that we're still on, I think.
Yeah, we're still on it for now. Who knows? I might firebomb it like zombie riddled London one of these days. But for now, we're still there.
Blue Sky, if you've transitioned there, we're on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, hit us up on all that shit. Leave us ratings, leave us reviews, and tell people about the show. If you like the show, or even if you don't like the show, just recommend it to someone you don't like. I did the plugs this time.
You did the plugs this time. Yeah, spread the word about the show like the rage virus. Thanks to ET for our research and social media managing.
Yes.
And, we'll see you next week for The Princess Bride.
My love is like a storybook story. That's the song at the end of A Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And in the meantime, we love you so much. And as always,
Later, dipshits! We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Greatest Movie Ever Made. Please remember to leave us a rating and a review, and to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We appreciate you supporting the show and spreading the word. Tell your friends to listen, tell your enemies to listen, tell your mom to listen. If your neighbor has an unsecured Bluetooth speaker, connect to it and play an episode. You can follow us on social media at TGMEM_podcast. And if you've got a movie that you want us to talk about, send us an email at thegreatestmoviepodcast@gmail.com.